Hey there, entrepreneurs. My name is Sushant, and welcome to Trep Talks. This is a show where I interview successful e-commerce entrepreneurs, business executives, and thought leaders, and ask them questions about their business story and also dive deep into some of the strategies and tactics that they have used to start and grow their businesses. And today I'm really excited to welcome Matthew Griffin, also known as just Griff, to the show. Griff is the co-founder and CEO of Combat Flip-Flops, a footwear and apparel company that sells goods manufactured in conflict and post-conflict zones. Griff is also a former Army Ranger serving 4 tours of duty in Afghanistan and Iraq, and the company uses their profits to aid the areas in which they are made as part of their mission to encourage peace through trade and business over bullets. And today I want to ask Griff a few questions about his entrepreneurial story and some of the strategies and tactics that he has used to start and grow his business. So thank you so much for joining me today at Trip Talks, Griff.
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm excited.
So I know that you have a very interesting story. You were an Army Ranger and you did tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I also believe that you got the idea, or you came up with the idea for Combat Flip-Flops while you were serving in Afghanistan.
It was a few years after, but the military is what first got me going over there, and it's what's kept me going back. So yeah, the idea was formed after my time in service.
So what motivated you for that? Can you share a little bit about your backstory? How did you get into military, and what was it like serving in Afghanistan and Iraq?
Yeah, so I'm a military brat. So my father was a 20-year retired Army guy. It was pretty apparent to me in college or in high school that my parents couldn't afford my college that I was going to go to, because I was a good student. I wanted to go to a good school, so I had to get a scholarship. So it was either get a scholarship, join the Army, use the GI Bill, or go do a mix of the two, which was West Point. So I went to West Point, the United States Military Academy, and I graduated in 2001. And I became an artillery officer. So big cannons, dropping big bombs. That was my specialty. And then September 11th happened. Then I was resolved to go into special operations as an Army Ranger, into the 75th Ranger Regiment. Got there, and I grew up just like the rest of us. Be all that you can be, get a nudge on life in the Army, serve your country, do all of these things, and you believe that what the figureheads in DC are telling you, what the military generals are telling you. But then when you're actually there on the ground living in villages, you see it's much different than you were told for a decade plus time. And what I saw was that we weren't fighting radical groups. We weren't fighting all of these other things. We were fighting poverty and a lack of literacy. And there's nothing that a bomb or a bullet can do over those two things. And I saw the same thing. I did 3 tours to Afghanistan, lost a few friends, did a tour to Iraq, lost a few friends. And at that point in time, I'd been in for about 5 years, and I decided what we weren't doing as a nation wasn't working. So I wasn't going to continue doing that. It was fruitless. That was it. So during that time, I also got married. I had 2 kids. So life was really busy. I was 27 years old with, a couple kids in diapers. I had no idea what I was going to do. And so I got out and took a job as a home builder, as a site construction manager. So I wasn't an entrepreneur when I first got out. I didn't have this idea, but I was always into entrepreneurial books when I was in the military, especially when you're in special operations. There's a lot of mandatory reading lists for different top tier special operations units. And I'm sure you guys see them in the movies, but they have reading lists. And so when you see one of those guys reading a book, you look over, you go, hey, what book are you reading? And they go, hey man, here's the reading list. And so here you have the top of the top military special operations super ninjas, and they've got a reading list. And when you read through them, about 75% of them are business books. And so that's where, when I was on deployment in between missions, I just started reading business book after business book after business book. And I really found that the entrepreneurial lifestyle was something that I felt I was capable of doing and aimed toward, but I didn't have the skills or the experience to do it. So I got out of the military. I took a job as a home builder. I was doing really well in that until the market crashed in 2008, lost my job. And then I took a job as a military sales director for a company working to put clinics and doctors and pharmaceuticals in developing nations in difficult areas. And they hired me to talk to the military guys and the contractors, because this is 2008. Obama just got elected. Contractors started going to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they needed pharmacies, they needed doctors, they needed clinics to support their operations. And so I would go to these areas to see what they needed, solve their problems, and then sell them the stuff to solve their problems. So I was a sales guy essentially, but I was traveling all over the world doing it. And everywhere I went to these conflict zones, it was a very much different story. It was a very different experience because I didn't come in on behalf of the US government. I came in on
Mhm.
behalf of a commercial company, and I was hiring locals. I wasn't carrying a gun. I didn't have body armor. Yeah, I could shake hands, I could hug, I could meet people, I could sit down, I could break bread. And this is something that most Westerners will never experience in these nations because they just don't have the opportunity to go there and see the other side of the 95% of the culture that's not depicted in the news. And
Mhm.
that really changed me as a person seeing that. And what I learned was is the areas that are needing security need more business. I'm an artillery guy, I'm a map guy. And so when I go to a country and I go, okay, it's a dangerous country, and I just look at where all the attacks are going on, they're usually in clusters. And they're in three clusters. They're around government buildings, military compounds and convoys, and reporters.
Mhm.
Those three. And what people don't understand is Afghanistan's a huge country. Those areas that are taking the attacks are probably the total of like 10 to 12 square blocks. So you have the rest of the country you can work in. Just stay away from those certain areas. And the areas that didn't have any attacks were the areas that were flourishing with small business. The guys who work in those stores, if it's bad for business, it's bad for family, and they just don't let anything go down on their street corner. And so I was in Afghanistan, I was in Iraq, I was in Jordan, I was in Kenya, I was in Sudan, I was in the DRC, I was in all of these different places. And it was the same story over and over again. So the thought kept occurring to me is, why are we continuing to send armored vehicles and jets and bombers and drones and all of these other things when we should just be sending entrepreneurs? We should be working with businesses to create jobs on the ground, putting people in school so that way they have a more educated workforce, because people would rather make money than they would fight. But unfortunately, in places like Afghanistan and Iraq, the only business is fighting.
I think that's, yeah, that's very true. When people have families and they don't have jobs and they don't have a means of feeding them, and in the media and on the internet they see that other nations, other places, especially in the West, there's a lot of wealth and money, and I think that probably leads to a lot of it. I think it's easy to get people to fight as a way of employment if they don't have any other options.
I
One
mean,
thing that's very, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, firsthand experience, we would catch guys and we'd bring them back and we sit them down in interrogation, and they're not radicals. They're not extremists. You ask them why you're doing what you're doing, and they just look at us and go, how else am I going to feed my family? That's the only way that they can feed their family, is to fight.
When that's very interesting. So when as a person who's living in the West, and I think a lot of people who are in the West, when they think about countries like Afghanistan and Iraq and things like that, most people would even be very well hesitant or worried about going there, because as you said, the war was occurring in certain places, everywhere else was good. But even then, I think there's a certain perception that if you go there, just because of everything seen in the media, the beheadings and things like that, um, people think that there's a certain animosity in the people against anyone who's coming from the West. When you were going there as like sales, in your capacity as sales, and not as an army person, did you ever feel like did you ever fear for your life, or was there any animosity from people looking at you as a Westerner, and treating you differently?
Yeah, actually, there was one time, once, and it was it's in the book. So I wrote a book about our adventure. If you guys want to check it out, it's called Steps Ascending: Rise of the Unarmed Forces. You can find it on our website and on Amazon.
Okay.
But we had just taken delivery of our flip-flops, and we had them in the back of a bongo truck. So it's a flatbed truck, and we were riding down Jalalabad Road in Kabul, sitting on top of our flip-flops in these bags. And we had our photographer in the back, and he was taking photos, and we were taking photos, just a cool look. I mean, it's just the Afghan mountains in the background, busy street, loads of flip-flops. And some guys rolled up on us behind in a motorcycle, like, stop taking photos of us. You're just exploiting us. And that was the only time we've ever had any animosity demonstrated, because most of the time they understand if you're there and you're on the street and you're not fearful and you're doing business and you're buying goods and you're exchanging services and you're helping people, they're generally going to welcome you.
One thing that I was very interested in learning from you is about discipline. I know that Army and the armed forces, when they recruit people to be part of their organization, discipline is a big part of that. Can you share a little bit about, when you went through the whole process, your education process, military process, how did what were some of your experiences of getting that discipline in the military? And regular people, that's one thing that they struggle with quite a bit. Is there something that I can do as someone who's not been in the military to become more disciplined in my life?
There is a very famous phrase in the military, and it is this: embrace the suck. Just embrace it. Being disciplined sucks. It is not an easy way of life. It is not a comfortable way of life. You're going to get up earlier. You're going to work harder. You're going to, get yourself on a schedule. You're going to watch all of your friends lead meandering lives. But if you want to get ahead in anything, I came from a wrestling background in Iowa, and the only way that you got to that top slot was being disciplined, being in the weight room longer, working on your moves harder, spending more time, dropping more weight. And in the military, it's the same thing. They've only got so many slots for guys going into the Rangers. And if you want to get there, you have to, learn your skills better. You have to run faster. You have to be able to do more pull-ups. You have to, be able to work better as a team. And all of those things take more time. And it just sucks. If you want something that you have to aspire to it, you just have to sit there and go, I'm embracing the suck. I'm going to take it in and I'm going to hug it. I know this sucks, but I'm doing it. And it sucks because in the end, I'm going to go get what I want. And that is the only thing that I can say about discipline. I don't think the military gives you any discipline. I just think it uncovers the depth of your discipline. And unfortunately, most people just haven't had the experiences that guys like us have had. And so they've never had anything that's uncovered the depth of their discipline. And I will have to say that the only thing that's gotten close enough to it or probably exceeded it, the desire for discipline, is running a small business. I have to be more disciplined as a small business owner than I had to be as in the Army. I wouldn't say as an Army Ranger, because lives are on the line, but if it came to you take that off the table, you have to be more disciplined as a small business owner. There's a lot more moving pieces around. You got a lot more pieces in play. There's just new problems that come at you didn't need to know. You need to learn more often. And so you have to be very, very disciplined about being a small business owner.
Definitely. So I want to shift the conversation towards combat flip-flop a little bit and your business. I know that you started this business with a few co-founders. I think there are 3 co-founders. Can you share a little bit about your experiences? Because a lot of the times when I talk to people, co-founding a business is always challenging because you have multiple people and sometimes visions don't align after a certain time and things like that. Can you share your experience about working with multiple co-founders? How do you manage the relationship, and how do you make sure that your visions are aligned, and what can others learn from your experience?
So my co-founders are my brothers. But they're not brothers by birth. One is my brother in arms, Donald Lee. So he was on my team in the Rangers, and he's been the longest friend I've ever had my entire life. Ride or die, thick or thin. If it comes down to it, I know he'll work his ass off and he'll get it done. The other is my brother-in-law, Andy Suri, just great human being. Came through. He was a professional painter for a large number of years, as anti-war as they come, but exceptionally disciplined and probably one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my entire life. And the 3 of us came together around this idea. Lee is great at direct response and advertising. Andy is great at design and operations. I'm great at sales and marketing. And so between the 3 of us, we had everything we needed to start the business. And I think that would be co-founding. And I'll have to say, we've gone through our ups and downs. Nobody can drive me to seeing red anger faster than Lee. Nobody, my business partner. And nobody drives him faster to anger than I do. But that's one of the relationships. And Andy, my brother, who sits in the office opposite of me, he sits there and he watches it happen. He knows the triggers, he knows when it goes off, and we'll be angry at each other for a little bit, but we just let it simmer, we let it go, and then we just get back to doing business. There's been a couple times when our visions haven't aligned, and the one thing that's brought us back is our mission statement. And when we go back to our mission statement, we all sat down and decided what was important to us as a business. If there's ever a difference in opinion, which one aligns best with our mission statement?
And you came up with that mission statement together at the beginning.
We did.
What is the mission statement?
To create peaceful, forward-thinking opportunities for self-determined entrepreneurs affected by conflict. Our willingness to take bold risks, community connection, and distinct designs communicates business, not bullets, flipping the view on how wars are won. Through persistence, creativity, and respect, we empower the mindful consumer to manufacture peace through trade. That's our mission statement. And then every person in our company knows it. We only have 5, so it's not very hard. But if you're ever faced with a decision and there's never any of the founders standing around, what's the decision that aligns most with the mission statement? That is the most correct answer. So that's how we do it. And there's a question in here later when you sent me the prep questions, which is going to lead back to this, which we'll discuss later. But yeah, we've managed it fairly well. You know, we're really tight as people. We try to have as much empathy as we can. As a small business owner, you're going to mix family and business, and sometimes somebody's going to be down because of family issues, and you got to pick up the slack for them. It's other times you're down and they got to pick up the slack for you. And it's just a matter of having a lot of empathy between the founders to understand where each person's at, what they're able to contribute to the business at that point in time, and then how you guys can all work together to still accomplish your goals while being regular, average human beings trying to raise families.
I mean, that's very interesting. And I think that, would you say that given that your business is so driven by a mission and a purpose, is also the reason why your business is successful to a certain extent? Because when you think about your products, like having flip-flops or, you know, apparel and things like this, there's a lot of options in the market. Do you think that your story and the mission and the social aspect of your business is what resonates with a group of people that allows you to drive the business?
It 100% is. When we first came out, when we first launched, we'd never actually made a pair in production. We sold about 4,000 pair in 72 hours. And that was because it got dropped on all of the military and the tactical blogs and everything out in those networks. And it was advertised to people that would understand our mission and why we're doing what we're doing, and respect the street cred that Lee and I have and the unit that we came from, to understand when guys like us get behind a mission, we're into it, we're doing it. And the military and tactical community have been the ones that have been supporting us since 2012. They've really been the ones who understand why we're doing what we're doing, and they're willing to support and join what we call the unarmed forces.
And is that your main market? Has that been your main market, and has that evolved since the beginning?
That has been our main market. You know, we had a successful Shark Tank appearance, which I'm sure you're going to ask about in a few minutes here. But when we did that, we scaled out really quickly because you get national attention, and that also diluted our core pool of our data. And we tried to scale out to everybody, but what we found was that you can't make everybody happy. And that's advice from Mark Cuban. He said, you can't make everybody happy. And so we had that expansion, and what we realized is we were trying to advertise to everybody, and it wasn't working. So we just went back to advertising to our core customer, and all the systems started going green again.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the manufacturing side of things. Of course, you know, you're manufacturing your products in Afghanistan, in Laos, in Colombia. Mm-hmm. Can you share a little bit about how that process started, you know, and also, given that you're getting things from 3 separate countries, is it difficult to manage? How do you manage this?
I'll have to say it's the same process that everybody uses when they're manufacturing stuff in China. If you're manufacturing offshore, everybody uses the same processes. It's not that difficult. Our relationship in Afghanistan started through the nonprofit that we support, Aid Afghanistan for Education. The executive director owned a textile factory to employ women, and that's how we started manufacturing textiles there. And our design process simply goes down to, we take a couple photos of things that we like, we do a couple renderings on some SketchUp or some artwork, and we send them the items or the ideas that we're thinking of, and they quickly manufacture prototypes, take photos, send it back to us. And then we'll repeat that process a couple times until it gets to something that we think would be market ready. And then they take it to DHL, they drop it off, they ship it on our account. We get it here, we look at it. If we have any feedback, we send it back to them. If it's good, we clean it up, take photos of it, and get it ready for sale and place orders and tell them to start producing. Colombia, a little bit different. We started making flip-flops in Afghanistan, but it's financially unfeasible to manufacture flip-flops there because they don't have the raw materials. They don't have rubber trees and EVA extruding facilities and leather tanneries. So if we were to continue manufacturing flip-flops in Afghanistan, they'd be like $120 and we would go under as a business. So we looked at our mission statement. Colombia fits our mission statement. And so we manufacture in Bogota, Colombia, where all of our material suppliers are within about a 20-mile square radius of our, or 20-mile radius of our finishing facility. So it's a really low carbon footprint. We can actually fly down there. It's exceptionally safe. We go around, we meet with all of our suppliers. We work with everything there. We go get our finished product done. And then when it's time to ship, it's get it on the UPS truck. You either get it to the airport or get it to the port and ship it up to us. In Laos, we work with another aftermarket manufacturer. They make high-end jewelry. And so we just work with them on one of their lower designs, and they do all the import export. So again, it's not anything different than anybody does with China. It's just a lot of work on the computer, a lot of back and forth. And then if we can, we take factory visits.
So right now your product line includes flip-flops, jewelry, and some apparel.
Apparel, and we make shoes too. We make some
shoes also. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask you a little bit about financing. I know that you went on Shark Tank, but before Shark Tank, was everything bootstrapped, or did you put your own money in there? How did you finance the business at the beginning?
So we started the business, and luckily I had a decent job where I could throw cash at it. When I couldn't throw any more cash out of my savings because my partner was getting mad, I sold all of my guns. I sold a couple motorcycles. I sold my hot rod. When you're really an entrepreneur and you want to go after a goal, there's no thing that exists in your life that is more important than the goal as an entrepreneur. And that thing usually has a dollar value. And if I understand its value is better in my business than sitting in my driveway or in my garage, then I'm going to sell it and I'm going to put it into my business. So I did that. I contributed money. I sold things. We had as much money as possible. Then we got a couple small angel investors right at the beginning, people who believed in us. And then we got one small, seed investment from a small local VC firm that was veteran owned. And that kicked us all the way to Shark Tank. And then that's where we hit that next level. And then luckily we haven't taken any money since. We found a good banking partner that's actually willing to work with us, because most banks for businesses our size won't bankroll you, especially when we make products where we make them. And we found a bank that works with mission-driven businesses, and they supported us. The organization is called Craft 3. So if you're looking for a mission-driven business looking for financing, check out Craft 3.
Would you recommend that anyone who's creating a business, before they go out, anyone who's creating maybe let's say a product-based business, instead of just putting it out there as like some random brand, that they brand it and put it out there, do you think that it's worth thinking about just taking some time and thinking about how that can help towards a mission, or how they can create a certain story that would resonate more with people rather than just putting out some random brand name out there?
I think it does. I mean, when you create a product, so real products solve real problems. People want flip-flops that aren't made in China right now. They buy our flip-flops. That solves a problem. People want flip-flops that last a long time. That solves our problem. People want military flip-flops that supports their lifestyle. that solves that problem. So real products solve real problems. And then once somebody comes to your product, then they have to make a decision whether they're going to buy yours or a competitor's. So now you need your differentiators. So ours come into quality materials, our design, our mantra, our vibe, and then we have our philanthropic initiative on top of it. And if somebody spends $40 to buy a set of flopperators, not only are they getting a badass set of flopperators with a lifetime mission, but they're going to feel good about buying them every time they put them on their feet because they know a little girl went to school for a day in Afghanistan. So that's our differentiator. You don't feel that when you buy, some of the other big brands that are out there. We have that differentiator, and it's embedded in all of our products throughout our entire business. And it's something that you need to work on or think about. And yeah, if you have a market that you're marketing to, and there's something that's relevant to that market from a philanthropic standpoint, consider those initiatives as a portion of your business.
Makes sense. I'm very excited to ask you about your experience with Shark Tank. I watched the Shark Tank video on YouTube, and it was entertaining. I think your pitch was very compelling.
Thank you.
Can you share a little bit about how did you get the opportunity? What was the reason behind it? Was it more of a financing, or was it more that you wanted to leverage the expertise of these business people? What was your experience like with Shark Tank?
They called us.
Okay.
So we didn't even apply. We had a really good news media hit by a guy named Wes Seiler in Gizmodo. And one of the producers read it, got a hold of my phone number somehow, called me, invited me onto the show. And he called me. It's again, it's in the book, but he called me super late on a Tuesday night and I didn't pick it up. And then I went to voicemail. It was, hey, my name's so-and-so from this show. I'd like to invite you on a Shark Tank. And I called him back immediately. I IMDb'd him first to make sure it wasn't a joke that my friend was playing on me. And then I called him back and we sat back and forth, and I'd only seen the show once or twice before. And it seemed to me like American Idol, where they thrash somebody on national TV for entertainment value. And I watched them thrash small business owners, get them to give up on their ideas and shame them in public. It just wasn't anything that I was into. I was like, I don't think so. I'll figure it out. And I told my business partner, Donald Lee, the next morning, and he goes, are you high? You call him back right now. You tell him you're going to apply immediately. And so that night I applied. They have a 6 or 8 page application form, and each page is 2 or 3 questions with third of a page of like open space to fill everything in. And I might have made it to the end of line 2 on one of the answers. They were really short, really abrupt, direct and to the point. And I sent it to him that night, and he called me back the next day. He's like, oh, this is the best application we've ever had. You guys are, we're going to get introduced to the producers. And so then we dropped everything we were doing that year. We spent 2 months training for the filming, and we just went down there, and our goal was to bring on cash, because you need cash to run the business, but you bring on some professional mentorship that would actually help grow and scale our business. And Team Cuban has been spectacular. They've helped us with Amazon, a few other things. Cuban wears our stuff all the time out in public, so that's been fantastic. And it's been cool. It's been a great experience, and it was really a windfall event for us that took us to the next level. But it's not one of those things that we lean back on. You don't find it pasted all over our website, but it is cool.
And when you were, this is something that I always ask, when you had your show, did you see a bump in your sales just because a lot of people saw it, or?
Yeah, we did a full website retool. We were on, I think, OpenCart as an e-commerce platform before, which is an open source website-based platform that was easy and cheap for us to get on. Then we finally made the jump to Shopify, and we made sure their servers could handle it. And they kind of laughed at us about their servers being able to handle a Shark Tank event. Like, man, we process 750,000 orders a minute during Black Friday. You're fine. So when we saw because we're on the West Coast, we couldn't see the airing until West Coast time, but we knew it was airing on the East Coast. And so we had a command center set up with big screen TVs, and we just saw all the influx in traffic. We had 44,000 concurrent users on our website. And we did more business in 17 hours than we did in the entire previous year. And in 36 hours, we eclipsed our entire company's revenue. So it was a
Wow.
huge windfall event. We aired in February, and at full production, we back ordered till the end of May. And then almost as if it were on purpose, we shipped the last back order, and then they rerun again, and we got back ordered to the end of August. So we had,
Wow.
a good 6-7 months of back orders at full production, which was spectacular.
Wow. Um, During that time, I think the biggest challenge for you was just because you ran out of inventory. So you had back orders and now you had to get more inventory.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest challenge that you faced.
That was the biggest challenge that we faced. I
Okay.
mean, we had our product line dialed. Everything was good. We just needed inventory on the deck. When we aired on Shark Tank, all of the inventory that we currently had at the time would have sat on my desk. We didn't have
Wow.
very much. We had gone through our holiday sales. We were just slowly building up inventory for spring, and we got a call in the middle of January that said, "Hey, you're going to be airing in 2 weeks." So I immediately hung up the phone. I called a buddy of mine who's got some money. I was like, "John, I need 50 grand right now." He's like, "No, I'll think about it." I was like, "No, we're not getting off the phone until you tell your assistant to wire me $50,000 immediately." And luckily he was a good friend of mine, and he did me that solid, and we paid him back a percentage on it, so he made his money back. But it's just those calls you got to make as an entrepreneur when you have those windfall events coming your way.
Now, for physical products, a big part of the business is the fulfillment aspect of it. Can you share a little bit about how you fulfill orders? Is it is the Shark team helping you with that, or is it more of an in-house? Is it third-party logistics? And any challenges that you face? Any lessons that others can learn from you?
So this is where I'm going to say you have to just get really good at spreadsheets. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to be really good at looking at your costs and cost analysis, specifically when it comes down to shipping and logistics. So we're based in the Pacific Northwest outside of Seattle. The majority of our customer base is in Southern California, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, New York, Washington, D.C. So they're about as far as you can get away on a map.
Hmm.
And when all of our products would come into the country, they would come into Florida, then they would have to get trucked all the way to Seattle for us to unpackage everything, relabel it, and then ship it back out. So it was expensive on the way in and expensive on the way out.
Hmm.
So our inbound freight and outbound shipping costs were exceptionally high. So my brother Andy is a spreadsheet ninja. He looked at everything and he says, we should really move our warehouse to Florida. So we found a third-party logistic facility in Florida that we worked with for 2 or 3 years. And then they scaled out of being productive for us. They just
Hmm.
took off like wildfire, and we were a small company and we weren't getting the attention that we needed to run our business successfully.
Hmm.
So it was a happy little accident. So we ended up moving warehouses in Florida a couple hundred miles north to Jacksonville.
Hmm.
But by doing that, we actually shrank our zone rate on shipping to our prime customers in Florida, Texas, California. And we saved a lot of money just by moving warehouse up north. So yeah, we do everything online. Everything comes in from Colombia, Afghanistan, into the East Coast, stays on the East Coast, ships to the East Coast. So that keeps our inbound freight and outbound shipping costs down. And that's all spreadsheet work. But what I will have to say is if you are considering doing that and you move your stuff to one of those warehouses, watch everything like a hawk.
Hmm.
If you're not there to stand over what's going on, you're going to get errant shipping charges, mispackaged boxes, everything else, especially as you're coming in. There's a lot of fees and things that rack up. And if you're on top of everything, it's going to take you a month or two to get it smoothed out to where it's at steady state flow, but you have to be watching it like a hawk.
Hmm. Did you ever try fulfillment by Amazon? Because I've heard that usually it's most cost effective in form of fulfillment. Did you ever try to go that way?
So we have been on and off Amazon, and our main thing is Amazon charges a fee on your products if you sell on Amazon.
Yeah.
It does. So we've been selling out of our product for years at full margin. So I'm not going to put products in an Amazon warehouse to have them take a percentage to sell the product that I would have sold anyway. That being said, we did just restart on Amazon again with a singular product. We'll probably put 2 or 3 products on there, and that's going to be about it. And we do fulfillment by Amazon for any of our Amazon stuff, because when you're in FBA, you're going to see your volume increase significantly versus
Yeah.
trying to do merchant fulfilled.
By the way, did COVID affect your business? Did it positively affect your business, or?
We were watching it from December of 19. You know, we tend to keep an eye on the global pulse just because we're shipping stuff all the way around. And so when it started coming up on the radar, we started making contingency plans, and we didn't know how it was going to go. So we clamped down really hard through the first quarter on all of our expenses and all of our spending. And then all of a sudden, everybody was at home. They don't need shoes anymore. They wanted flip-flops. They didn't want to buy stuff made in China. And we were the only game in town.
Hmm.
So our sales took off. We had a record year last year. And
Wow.
it's a struggle to say that given so many other businesses are really hurting, but we were prepared for it. And it's been a really good thing. And the day that they did that face covering
Yeah.
notice, it was like late March, we sold 6 months worth of our scarves in about 3 days, which was really
Wow.
cool.
Great. What does your team look like right now?
So right now there's 5 of us.
Okay.
I CEO, and I mainly manage all of our systems. So I just look at all of the different systems, and then I run sales, and I run our marketing department. So I do all of our imagery and stuff for advertising. Next is Donald Lee. So he's our chief marketing officer. He's responsible for all of our buys, our affiliates, Google AdWords, Facebook advertising, Instagram, all of those advertising platforms and spends, because outside of product, that's our biggest spend. So he's focused on that. And then Andy Suri is our president. That's my brother. He runs our design and operations. So he's the guy who makes sure all the products get made right and they get delivered to the warehouse correctly and they get shipped all the way to the customer correctly. And our 2 employees are customer service. So that was the first employee that we ever hired, was customer service. And so it's Jill. And then we actually hired her son, and her son does all of our media and imagery. So all of our social media advertising, product photography, we do that in-house. We don't outsource that. So we're just trying to be relevant, posting new content all the time. And so that's our team, a team of 5. And then we outsource our accounting and bookkeeping. We outsource our fulfillment. And I think that we outsource our legal, and that's what we do.
Who does your copywriting? I saw that on your social media, all the posts all the copy was very, the language, goes very well with your brand. Like it's military language, and do you do that yourself, or
Yeah, I do
your team?
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I do
Okay.
that. And
Interesting.
it's one of those things, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, this is your idea, this is your heart and soul. So it's got to come through on everything. And when people are looking at your product, whenever they're reading about your product, you're communicating what's within you to them. And so that's the vibe we try to have.
That's awesome. Um, any e-commerce tools? I know you mentioned you're using Shopify now, which is, I guess, Shopify is the biggest e-commerce platform out there. Any tools that help you in really managing your business that you can recommend to other people?
And so again, we're a really guerrilla, like, gritty company. I'd have to say the best tool that we use is Google Sheets.
Okay.
If you're in the G Suite platform, I run on a Chromebook. I use a Google Pixel phone. So everything I have is Google. So all of my systems work through and through. But for $5 a month, you can give somebody the same ability to collaborate with you on everything. So Google Meets and Google Sheets, Google Docs, like everything is Google for us. But the sheets are really great because over the past 10 years, I've really learned sorry, my phone just kicked on. I've learned what are the priority tasks for me that I have to focus on. What are the big knobs and levers that I have to look at every day? What's our banner like? What's our promotion like? What's all of our sliders like? What are our hero products that are in there? What are we changing any collections? Are we adding or removing any products? What's our Facebook advertising look like? Have I answered all of the social media comments? Have I looked at our designs that are coming in? Have I looked at our marketing schedule? And so I literally just have a spreadsheet. On the single column A, I've just got all of my tasks, and they're by block of what I need to look at. And then on the top row, January 1st through December 31st, I have every day. And I just go through across that sheet, and I just make all my notes in there. But it gets me looking at all of the pertinent things for my business every single day. And what used to take me 6 hours of meandering around trying to figure everything out. Now I have, going back to your bird you asked about earlier, I have a very disciplined process,
Hmm.
which I'm actually able to take a look at all of those key functions of my business and roll through them to make sure everything in my business is running straight, identify any problems and take care of them immediately. So then I can get to focusing on the other important part of your business, which is raising revenue and sales. Yep.
Definitely. For your marketing, I know you mentioned ads and social media and a lot of different things. How do people who have not heard about your business find you? Is a big part of your business repeat customers who know about your business and come and look at new products and buy it, or is your focus more towards acquiring new customers?
Our focus is more towards acquiring new customers. Once you're our customer, you're always going to be our customer. We make badass products. We take care of you. We pride ourselves on having the best customer service in the business. So once you're in our fold, like we'll take care of you. We want to keep you. We spend a lot of time and effort getting you into our community, and we're going to keep you there the best that we can. So we focus on new customer acquisitions. So for us, it's a lot of collaborations. So working with other brands, doing giveaways, working with influencers. That's a big thing for us, and paid influencers on affiliate platforms. And then we do, Facebook marketing, and it's a matter of, okay, what is our current, you take Shopify, download it into your Facebook, whoever's purchased our AK-47 or our flop rater is this customer. And then you just hit the little lookalike button, 1%, 2%, and you go, okay, this customer, according to Facebook or whomever, looks like our previous customers, and I'm going to advertise to them. And so the thing that I would say to you is you can spend yourself into bankruptcy on advertising. All of these companies don't care how much money you spend. They don't care how effective you are with what you spend. All they care about is that you spend. So you need to be the one caring about your effectiveness. So what we've just learned is at certain times of the year, we have to really whittle down our targeting and advertising to certain customer groups to maintain our key metric is ROAS, so the return on ad spend.
Okay.
So for every dollar that we're spending, how much are we getting back? And so a lot of times you're just going to go, oh, I'm going to advertise to these guys. Well, yeah, I know you're advertising to those guys, but it's freezing in Minnesota right now in January. You shouldn't be advertising to anybody in Minnesota for flip-flops until probably April or so. So you've got to whittle down your restraints on where you're advertising to within those groups. So for us, go ahead.
So there's a bit of a seasonality to your business also then.
Oh, definitely. There's a seasonality. Yeah. I mean, we're getting ready to get into the primetime season. We're already watching our web traffic numbers come up. We're already watching our sales come up because now it's starting to warm up. People are wanting new flip-flops for spring. They're researching everything and they're finding our brand with decent advertising and imagery. And then they're coming in. And then once we get them, we incentivize them exceptionally hard with a new customer coupon. And then we get them into our funnel and we try to market and advertise to them as best as possible.
So what is next for your business? Is a part of your work also to figure out what are new products I can launch? Are you working on any new products?
We are working on new products. So a lot of people have been wanting a slide. So the flip-flop without the thing between the toes. So we have a new slide that's going to launch here in the next month. We've got some low top shoes that are coming out. And then we're going to be doing a lot of collaborations on our footwear moving forward. So we do our flopperator, which is it's the burly outdoor beachy flip-flop, tubular nylon and rubber. So you can just beat the hell out of the thing and it'll last you a long period of time, but there's a patch on the outside and you can change it out. So now we're partnering with other nonprofit organizations to make a custom patch for them. We sell the product and we give a portion of the proceeds to them. So that's what we do. That's what we're working on, is we're always trying to find new products. And then the other thing for us is apparel is really easy to do. We come up with a design, we do direct to print, so we don't hold any inventory. So we're always just trying to come up with fresh designs and fresh ideas that are relevant to what's going on in today's society right now. So from the time that we come up with an idea to the time that we can publish it on our store is about 96 hours. So that's what we do.
And do you use like any platforms that help you do that, like print to apparels and ship it out, or?
Yeah, so we do our design through Fiverr. So
Okay.
Fiverr, and you can find a designer. You can get commercial rights to the imagery and do everything for about $40 to $50 per design. And then we use Printify on the back end of Shopify, which is an app that plugs in.
Okay.
And so it's very simple for us to, drag the design over, put it on a deck, source out all the printers, determine our costs, write our copy, get it published on the website. It's very quick to do.
Now, I know that you mentioned there was some learning experience when you were switching from the third-party logistics. Were there any big mistakes or failures or learning experiences throughout your business journey where it was like a big learning experience for you? Would you be able to share any failures and what you learned and what can others learn from your mistakes?
I've said this on every podcast that I've been on, and I will keep saying it over and over again, but understanding the difference between a profit and loss statement and a cash flow statement is absolutely key. You may be profitable in a month, but your cash will go red depending on how the cash goes in and out. So that was something that we didn't really conceptualize or put into really solid action for about 3 years. And that hurt us significantly, understanding our cash flow. But now that we understand our cash flow, we can actually use it to our advantage to put the right product on the deck at the right time of the year with seasonality and plan ahead of it. So the biggest mistake that we made as a business was really, we were focused on the P&L statement for bottom line for investors to raise seed money to grow versus really focusing on our cash flow and being cash positive, because that's more important than being profitable is being cash positive.
And the reason for that is that if you don't have cash, then if you have like a demand coming up for your products, you won't be able to purchase the products to fulfill that. Is that the
correct? Yeah, for several years we had to pre-sale stuff. So you would say, hey, pre-order these AK-47 flip-flops. Here's 20% off if you order now. So we had to discount our product off the bat, receive those funds in, take those funds, issue our deposits, build the product, pay for the product, ship the product, then send it to the customer. So we would to cash in on a sale, say, for example, in March, but you wouldn't really recognize it as revenue until July because of when it shipped, or June or July because of when it shipped. So again, cash versus profit and loss statement. So it was really tough for us to get that done. And so, and there were plenty of times where we had a media hit come through and we knew it was coming, but we just didn't have the cash to have the inventory on the deck. So we weren't actually able to harvest all of the profits and the donations out of it just because we simply didn't have the product on the website. Great. I'll give you an example. When we aired on Shark Tank, our conversion rate was right around 2.5%,
okay, which
was great. We aired on CBS Evening News on Cyber Monday, 2019, and our conversion rate was 6.75%.
Wow.
Right. So we're 3 times as likely to convert a customer because we had the actual product on the deck.
That makes a lot of sense. Now we're going to move on to our rapid fire round. And in this segment, I'm going to ask you a few quick questions and you can answer them in 1 word or 1 sentence. Are you a book reader? Can you recommend any business or entrepreneurship book for other people in 2021 and why?
I would recommend Mastering the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish.
Okay.
That is a great book. Everybody should read it. It's a simple read. Read that book.
An innovative product or idea in the current e-commerce, retail, or tech landscape that you feel excited about?
Right now, I'm really excited about crypto.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you an investor?
I'm a little bit in blockchain. And I just, us working internationally, us seeing how currencies change, us seeing how people get robbed and how there's a bunch of corruption across everything. Blockchain technology is the perfect accounting system, and everybody will be accountable in blockchain. So I'm excited to see what that does in leveling the playing field. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen with blockchain over the next few years.
Yeah, I think blockchain as a technology seems very interesting, but with crypto, it's like some people are quite up on it, some people are not so much. So it seems like quite uncertain until I think it's adopted more generally in the marketplace.
Yeah, and just think about credit cards in the early 70s. That was a foreign concept. What do you mean I have a plastic card that somebody can take the number off of and I can buy it and it'll work. That'll get, criminals will steal my number. And yes, that's going to happen. Now it's blockchain. It's the next evolution of payment. What do you mean? I have Google Pay. I can swipe my phone across a register
system, yeah.
at a gas station, and it works. Oh my God, it's so new. Like, it's going to get corrupted. Yes, people will corrupt it, and then they figure out defenses against it. Blockchain is just the next evolution of currency. So I'm just really excited about blockchain.
A business or productivity tool or software that you would recommend? Now, I know that, there's discipline, but then there's also productivity. I know you said Google Sheets helps you quite a bit. Is there any other productivity tip that you have?
Yeah, again, I'm really simple. I keep everything in Gmail because Gmail's faster than Macmail. And then I have, okay, I'll give you a really good one. It's a text expander. So it's in Chrome, it's an extension in it, but if you find yourself repeating the same phrase, your address, writing all of these things over time, if you expand how much time you spend typing those out over a year, it's hours. Yeah. So text expander is where you can mash down on a couple keys and it can write anywhere from a sentence to a couple paragraphs, enter your date. So text expander is a tool that I use when I'm, especially in sales, when I'm recruiting influencers. I have everything that I need already written out to answer all the questions they might have, because I've answered them so many times that I just create a little shortcut for it. And that's what I use, is text expander. That's saved me hours and hours, and especially after Shark Tank, where I answered every single customer service email. Text expander was a lifesaver.
Okay. A startup or business in e-commerce, retail, or tech that you think is doing great things right now?
The one that I really like is another veteran business, is Black Rifle Coffee. I know Evan, the founder. I mean, they're a large business now with decent zeros behind them, but it started with a 2.5 pound roaster in his cabin, and now they're delivering pounds of coffee to your door every month for $13 delivered. They've got canned drinks, they've got storefronts going on. They're generating millions of dollars in donations to veteran nonprofits. And I really think that they've owned it from start to finish. I'm really excited about what they're doing and how they're growing. And I'm more excited about how many people they're helping.
I think someone else also mentioned Black Rifle Coffee. I'll have to go back and check, but the name rings a bell. A peer entrepreneur or business person whom you look up to, or someone who inspires you?
Right now, I'm a big fan of Elon. I think everybody is, but just his ability to, and I'm like 1 degree of separation away from him. I know a lot of guys who work with him, and so I've only heard stories secondhand, but he's got skin in the game. Yeah. He's not dealing with all these VC investors, everything else. He invented the technology that gave him, the cash to be able to do all these things that he's doing now. And when he gets down and he says to business, he doesn't have to answer to shareholders. He doesn't have to answer to all these other people. He says, I need you to do this. I need you to solve this problem for me now. And so how he solves problems, one, is great. And I just love how he's just sticking it to the man across social media right now. Dude needs a wheelbarrow to move his man parts around, man. He is just loaded. Like I got a huge amount of respect for Elon right now.
Yeah. I don't know how he does it. His brain is definitely a little bit different. Final question: best business advice you've ever received, or you would give to others?
And this is it. So I was struggling. I was pitching. I'd probably done about 60 or 70 pitches at this time, and I'd been told no uniformly. And so one guy took pity on me and offered me some advice. And this is the same advice I'm going to offer you right now. And it's going to start with a question. What does a CEO do? And I gave this guy a whole bunch of like Jarbish catchword bingo from some entrepreneurial class I didn't take, right? And he's like, you do 3 things. He's like, you raise money, you hire well, and you solve problems. You either raise money through sales or funding. You hire people that are smarter and better than you in everything, in every way, and then you solve problems. Nobody cares about your problems in your business like you care about your problems. You can pay somebody $1 million and you can make 0 as a founder, and you're going to care more about that problem than that person getting paid $1 million. the problems always stop with you. So you have to be a professional problem solver. If you're an entrepreneur, you're a problem solver, because every time you solve a problem, you are now one step closer to success. And your life is going to be filled full of problems, and you should be thankful for them, because it's showing you the roadblocks to being successful. And as soon as you get through them, you're going to get past that roadblock, and you're going to be one step closer. So that's the best advice that was ever given to me: is you raise money, you hire well, and you solve problems.
That's great. Thank you. I'll ask you one more question, because I'm beginning to think about this more and more. When you have a business, do you think about an exit strategy? Do you think, because business has many different levels, right? So right now your business at a certain level, do you ever think, how do I evolve? Like, how can I, because you were saying, hire really great people. Do you ever think that you can hire really great CEO and replace your job, and so that maybe you can start to go out and start a new business, or you can do something else?
Yeah,
Do you ever think about? Yeah.
No, I do. And I love what I do. And when, I'm sure you guys have all heard of Tom's Shoes, buy one, give one. We're very fortunate in that I knew the first employee from Tom's. And so when we first started our business, I asked him, how'd you guys grow? How'd you guys scale? And they said, the story will take you so far. Your business acumen as a founder will take you so far, but then at some point in time, you need professional management to really help scale the business. And at that point in time, Blake, the founder of Tom's, they hired a guy that could fill that role. Then he really focused on brand as the chief storytelling officer. And I see that's still my value in the company, is I would love to see my business expand. I would love to be able to hire more people. I would love to be able to generate more donations, all of those things at the hands of somebody who has more business experience, knows how to make it scale and make it work. And that's better for my team. They're not fumbling through it like I've been for the past decade. And then be able to really focus on telling the story of how we're making more of an impact. That's where I think my value comes in as a company. And so it's definitely something I think about, but I enjoy running my business right now. I enjoy learning about it. I got 2 daughters in high school. We're not moving anywhere for a couple of years. So it's something, it's a couple of years down the road, but it is something that comes to mind often.
Okay, Griff, thank you so much. Those were all the questions that I had. Now is your opportunity to share a little bit about, where people can go buy your products, your website, maybe Amazon, your book.
Yeah, so everything on social is at Combat Flip Flops. If you want to go to our website and check out our products, it's combatflipflops.com. If you want to follow me personally and interact with me, my Instagram is at combatflipflops.griff, Griff, and just hit me up there. Love to hear from you.
Perfect. And you mentioned your book also. Where can
I have a book called Steps Ascending: Rise of the Unarmed Forces. So if you want to hear about the world's craziest entrepreneurship story, it's a very quick read, but you can find it on our website. And if you like ebooks or audiobooks, our COVID gift to the world is we're giving it away for free to entrepreneurs. So just go onto our website. You can download the ebook, you can download the audiobook, and you can listen to the crazy tale of how we started a manufacturing company in war zones.
Thank you so much, Griff, for joining us today at Trep Talks, for sharing your story, for sharing your amazing story, and also some of the great business insights, for being so generous with your time. So really, really appreciate your time and your story. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.